Hey everyone, it's Bridget. I wanted to do a quick video and do a little comparison between the Louis Vuitton Couv Carnet or Couv Carnet GM size, which is A5, and compare that to the Desk Agenda Louis Vuitton, which also fits A5. I've seen some really helpful pics and videos recently comparing these two items, but since they've both become more popular, I thought I would do a quick video and show you some actual inserts and how they fit in each item, so that way it'll just give you kind of a visual reference of how these work in a practical sense. So the Couv Carnet, or Couv Carnet, that a lot of us call the CCGM, it is A5 size, but that is like legit A5 size from cover to cover. So when you take into account the interior stitching and the fact that your insert is not going to be able to fit all the way to the very edge, it actually fits slightly smaller than A5 inserts. So the Desk Agenda, in comparison, fits true A5 inserts on the inside, because it is slightly larger overall. I think the measurements when it's closed overall are just a hair beyond 7 inches by 9 inches. So it will fit all A5 inserts that measure 5.8 by 8.3 without any modification or trim, because there's just simply more room on the inside. But even though the measurements of the Desk Agenda are slightly over 7 by 9 inches, it will not fit true 7 by 9 planners like the Erin Condren or the Plum Planner without a little trim or modification. And so you'll see kind of how some A5s need to be trimmed or modified to fit inside the CCGM. If you plan to use a true 7 by 9 planner, which is larger than A5 size, that would require some trim or modification to fit in the Louis Vuitton Desk Agenda. So if you look at them one on top of the other, you can see the overhang on each and how the Desk Agenda is just slightly larger and slightly wider as well. So even when you find inserts that fit, in my experience, this CCGM is really better for one insert, unless you had two very thin inserts to go inside. Whereas the Desk Agenda, being wider, can fit one or two inserts because it just has more space to accommodate the books. So first I'll show you some that can fit in either, and then toward the end I have a few that will fit in the Desk Agenda but not the CCGM at all, even with modification, in my opinion. So let's start with the CCGM. This Fabriano book came from Amazon. It has dot grid insert and it's true A5 size. So if you try to tuck it in the cover, you'll see that when you take into account the stitching, you can't fit it in here without some trim or modification. Now, if you're willing to do that, it's not that big of a deal. You can use regular, house scissors and just trim either 1/4 of an inch or less off the top and bottom, just straight across. And if you do that, which would allow you to slide this in the back pocket, this would fit and be an appropriate insert for the CCGM. It would just require that minimal trim of the back cover so it can fit securely inside the pocket. That's how it would look on the inside. And of course, since the Desk Agenda is larger, it will fit in there with no trim required. So that's what it looks like in the Desk Agenda. a minor trim of the back cover, it would also be appropriate for the CCGM. This is a Midori notebook that is grid. I believe it comes in dot grid also. This is square grid. I know it comes in ruled also, and maybe even blank, but these are available on Amazon. And it is, if you compare it to the Fabriano, it is exact A5 in size. So it would fit in exactly the same way. It's not going to slide into the pockets here without a minor trim. But if you trimmed 1/4 inch or less across the back cover, then it would be an appropriate insert for the CCGM. And of course it fits inside the desk agenda in the same exact way as the Fabriano. Now this is a green room insert that I picked up at Target. And it will fit with a little love, a little sweet talking. It's a snug fit, but it will fit inside the CCGM with no trim required whatsoever. So it must just be a hair smaller than true A5. So you can see that this is an ideal insert for the CCGM. And of course these are available with different covers. These are really nice. They're ruled. And this is kind of a soft, almost like a pleather type cover. And I want to say these are like around $7 or less even. So this is actually one of my favorite choices for the CCGM because it requires no trim. I'm going to have to gently pull it out, just as gently as I put it in, because it is a snug fit. Okay. And so basically, rule of thumb, because of the size, anything that will fit into the CCGM will automatically fit into the desk agenda because it's slightly larger. One thing to consider is if you put anything in the CCGM that's slightly smaller, it might actually be too small for the desk agenda, because you can see with this one how there's excess room at the top and bottom. If you go too small, you're going to end up with the insert wanting to slide around. This is probably okay. I don't think it would slide a whole lot. I don't know, it might. You could always put something behind it to make it a little more secure. But to me, this is a more appropriate insert for the CCGM rather than the desk agenda. And that is Green Room Journal from Target. Now this notebook I also picked up at Target, and it was in the dollar spot area, so $5. Can't beat it because, I mean, the quality is actually pretty darn nice. It came in maybe 3 or 4 different colors, and so you'll see here what I meant earlier, it's slightly smaller. So if you put it in the desk agenda, there's quite a lot of extra room on the top and bottom. So to me, that's almost too small for the desk agenda. I mean, it would work, but I guess it's just personal preference. To me, it's a little too small. It is, however, perfect for the CCGM because it slides right in with no trim required. And there's a couple different ways. See, that's perfect. There's a couple different ways you can use inserts in the CCGM. You can either slide them into the back cover like so, and that would allow you to have use of both of these front pockets. Or you can also slide the front cover in and use them simultaneously just makes it, there you go, a little more secure. And I'm kind of doing it on the fly, so it's bowing out a little, but if you kind of play around with it and get it even on both sides, then you won't have that bow. But you can see that you can use both covers tucked in, like so, or just the one, like so. Okay, so those are the most appropriate journals and notebooks for the CCGM. Now this planner I picked up at Target, and it is made by Blue Sky, and it did require a minor trim to the back kind of plasticky cover, and you can see that's not straight, but I just haphazardly did a little trim with my office scissors to allow that to slide into the back cover. And once you make that minor trim, this is actually a perfect fit for the CCGM for a planner option. And this is a horizontal weekly planner with a monthly view as well. So that's a good planner option for the CCGM. In my opinion, almost a little too small for the desk agenda. And then the Hobonichi Cousin has become pretty popular here. It has the Tomoe River paper on the inside with yearly, monthly, weekly, and daily view. And it is a true A5 size. So this is one that would work in the CCGM, but it does require the minor trim of the back cover, just like I did on that Target planner. So if you're willing to shave off that 1/4 inch or less from the back cover, then you can easily carry your Hobonichi Cousin in the CCGM. And it feels really good in the hand like that. Now, it will also fit in the desk agenda with no trim at all. And because of the size of the desk agenda, you can have the Hobonichi on one side and even include a second notebook tucked behind this side. You can see there's plenty of room for 2 notebooks in the desk agenda. Now this is a 7 C's journal. This is ruled. I also have blank, and it comes in a crosshatch that's similar to a dot grid, Tomoe River paper. These are available at Namami paper website, and they are true A5. So just like the Hobonichi Cousin, it will fit in the desk agenda with no trim whatsoever. And it will also fit in the CCGM and be actually a really nice companion for that, but it would require the mild trim of the back cover, because you can see it's not going to fit without that trim due to the stitching. So there are a lot of options for the CCGM. You just have to be willing to make that minor trim. There are some other options that, in my opinion, are too big for the CCGM but do work really well in the desk agenda. These journals that come from Barnes & Noble, I really like. A lot of them have gilded edges, and so this one has a gold edge around the $12 price point, and it's ruled. But you can see that even if you did trim the back cover, I mean, I guess theoretically it does fit, so to speak, but you see that tiny bit of overhang. In my opinion, this is just a hair too big for the CCGM. That overhang would bother me personally, but it is really nice in the Desk Agenda. So this would be a nice option if you wanted to do journal or notebook on one side and then some type of planner on the other side. There's room for both. So if you had the Hobonichi, for example, in the opposite side of the Desk Agenda, you can see they both fit without trim, and there's plenty of room. Now this is heavy, granted, so may or may not be ideal for daily carry, but if you were going to keep it at home, they're a really nice fit. This came from Target. Can you tell I got a Target? This is the Paper Chase brand, and it's a lined journal that comes with this clear plastic cover. And so the cover in and of itself kind of makes this not appropriate for the trim, in my opinion. So it would fit in the CCGM, but you would have, this is the Desk Agenda, it fits no problem. No problem in the Desk Agenda. In the CCGM, however, you can see that even if you did trim the back cover, you're going to have some overhang. So, in my opinion, this is too large for the CCGM. Beautiful for the Desk Agenda. The disc system has become really popular too, and these are 1-inch Levenger discs. So these work perfectly in the Desk Agenda. I have my back cover on a separate disc system right now, but I do have a clear plastic back cover that I use when I'm using this as an insert that just slides into the pocket. And so you can see there's plenty of room. However, this is too large for the CCGM. You can see major overhang. So if you are willing to put the time and effort into it, you can trim your pages to a smaller size and use a smaller size disc. This is a 1-inch disc. So if you were going to use maybe a 1/2-inch disc, I'm not sure about the 3/4, but I know the 1/2-inch would work. But you would have to trim your paper down about 1/2 inch more narrow than this for it to fit without overhang. So, you know, it might work, but to me, this is a more ideal system for the Desk Agenda. And then lastly, I just recently found out about Erin Condren. I did not realize that there were journals and notebooks available in addition to her planners until someone posted about them recently. So these, you can tell by looking, are quite a bit wider. So they are in no way an option for the CCGM. However, they will work in the Desk Agenda without any trim required this way. But what you'll see, you tuck it all the way in because it is wider than usual. It will work that way, but there's a little overhang here that would probably get on my nerves. So what you could do if you wanted to use this in here is do, oh, sorry about the shaking, do a minor trim going this way across to make the back cover a little more narrow, which would allow it to slide over a little deeper, and then you could get it to come, you know, right out to the edge, and it would probably be a more appropriate fit. And what's cool about these journals is they also have coordinating notepads. And so you could take one of these and tuck it into the secretarial pocket of your desk agenda and have a nice coordinating set. But in my opinion, this back cover would need to be trimmed vertically just a hair. So those are several options. I'm sorry this went a little longer than I'd planned, so I'm gonna quit rambling and wrap it up, but I hope that gave you a good visual reference for some good options for the CCGM and the desk agenda. If you have any questions or comments, just leave them for me and I'll be happy to get back to you. Thanks a bunch. Bye-bye.